Welcome back to Nightcap Chat, the pop culture podcast. We talk all things comic books and video games, movies, TV shows, and more. Today, we are talking video game philosophies and good bourbon. Blade O'Neill, and today I'm joined by Lance O'Neill and our special guest, Dan, joining us from Virginia. Well, Dan, thanks for joining us. I appreciate you doing that. So, we're doing something a little different. And we did that last week. So November is just going to be the month of doing things different.
Yeah,
now,
done it so far.
Yeah. So when we started Nightcap Chat, for those of you who were with us when we were just a Twitch talk show, we would just hang out and we would have a drink. That's what we're kind of doing here today. This is a little throwback. Now, of all of my friends in all of the different places, several times people have recommended a whiskey called Basil Hayden. I even had a friend called Hayden recommend Basil Hayden. And yeah, is that ironic? Or maybe ironic's not the right word. So we have some of this. You drink Basil Hayden, don't you?
It's the only one I drink. It's the only one I drink.
So that's your everyday.
That's my go-to, yeah.
Okay. I'm going to admit, this has been a little overhyped, but I do really like it. So downstairs I have is it a 1.75 liter?
Yeah, it's the big one.
It's the big one. I'm about halfway done. It's only been a couple of days, so I can't say I don't like it. I can't say that.
It's a good everyday drink.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to hit middle of the road, but you don't want to, drink the rot gut stuff, this is perfect. This still makes you feel classy without feeling like you're a drunk.
Yeah, I mean, especially for the price. I will say a Total Wine, that was only $47 for the. I'm sorry, 67.
Yeah, but it's a big bottle.
That is a big bottle, but that was a good deal, I think, because some of the grocery stores who, depending on where you're listening to, because I grew up in New York and I moved out to Arizona, and I forgot that grocery stores do not sell liquor. You have to go to a liquor store for that. The grocery stores had it for $47 for a $7.50. So for 20 more bucks, I get more than twice as much. That's a deal.
Yeah.
Oh. So
I'm enjoying it. I don't know. I like it.
But do you like whiskey?
Yeah.
He drinks the Irish whiskey stuff. Scotch whiskey.
Lame.
I mean, Macallan's great. I honestly, I probably like this though better than I just had the 12-year-old double cask Macallan.
Mm-hmm.
And the 12-year-old double cask isn't as good as the regular 12-year-old Macallan. Because I guess whatever the second cask is or whatever they're doing for the second time, the flavors on it aren't as good, and it's a little more scotchy than I like. But I think this is better than the 12-year-old double cask, that's for sure.
I'm not, excuse me. To me, scotchy is tastes like a pencil.
No, it's not like Doers on the Rocks where it literally feels like you bit into a number 2 pencil. That's literally how it tastes.
Don't you? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I'm a straight bourbon guy. I'm not. I tried the Scotch and Johnny Walker and all that. I don't know. I'm just not into that. I like my bourbon.
Yeah.
I like my bourbon. Scotch seems to have too much of a bite for me.
I don't know if I would call it a bite. I mean, I've like Doers, for example. There's something very pencil-y, and I don't know how to describe it other than a pencil. Like if you took a pencil and I don't mean this. I know it sounds very negative, and I don't really mean it in a very negative way. Because if you like that, that's fine. I respect that. My mom, she drinks Doers. My grandfather, that's what he drank. My grandmother. That's just not the flavor I like. But I read the back of this label and it was like, oh, this is spicy. This is gonna be great. And I was like, okay, this is gonna be like Woodford Reserve or Knob Creek, or I'll even go as far down as what is it called? Four Roses.
Oh, Jesus.
I know that's like $18 a bottle. It's really cheap, but you know.
Yeah, I drank that once when I was on hard times.
Oh my, okay. I know it's like that, but I mean, if you wanted to save $10, last time I bought
it's not worth the hangover, everybody. It's not worth the hangover.
Do you think it gives you a hangover?
It does. It does. It gives me a terrible. I don't know. I just seen it as, you know, you might as well be drinking Schlitz or, you know, it's just not my thing.
I think this is way better than all those you just said.
I'm not saying it's not.
I think if you don't read the label and you drink this, you're going to be pleasantly surprised. If you read the label and have expectations of what it's going to be, you might be a little let down because it's overhyped, but it is a really good, smooth, everyday drink. It's something you can drink every day and enjoy and not just think that you're, you know, drinking this because it's cheaper and you drink it every day.
You know, it is really smooth, and I cannot deny that for a second. As much as I love Woodford and Knob Creek, and I guess 12-year-old Redbreast, which is a lot less. It's a lot less spicy. You would like it if you like this. It's I'm gonna say it's an Irish whiskey, but don't let that deter you. Because
I'm trying not to read labels and just go by taste these days because you know, you can hype something up to the heck and then you get an idea of what it's supposed to be and maybe your taste buds are a little bit different than somebody else's. Absolutely. And then you get, you know, like I said, pleasantly surprised or pleasantly disappointed.
Because it does have that smoothness, excuse me. It's not spicy, you know, and it has that mellowness that this has. So in that regard, I do really like it. I've been drinking over the last few days, so like I definitely can't say I hate it.
There you go, another convert.
I do enjoy it. I do think Woodford is still my favorite, though.
I don't know. I feel like if you're going to compare this, when you're comparing them, and don't get insulted by this, but it's like, to me, it's like, you know, each alcohol has their own thing, like vodkas, right? There's like the Smirnoffs, right? That's, you know, not that good. But then you got like the Tito's and the Grey Goose. They're a little more expensive. Okay. To me, this is almost like the Tito's vodka, where it's like, it's probably worth the little bang. It's a little more expensive, but it tastes a little better. It's smoother. And again, with the whole, you're probably not going to have that bad of a hangover if you drink a little too much. It's not going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to regret it and I'm never going to drink whatever I mixed my vodka in that night or whatever it was. Never drink orange juice again or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Completely get that. And as much as I've drank over the last few days, I mean, you saw how empty that bottle is. I haven't been.
By the way, a couple of days and it's half gone. I did just.
That's like a liter.
That's.
I'm not saying you have a problem. I'm just.
I've been very anxious the last few days, I will admit.
Anxious? That seems like a panic attack.
Yeah. I mean, what he's saying, I can't deny it, for sure. But any way I have felt in the morning has definitely not been booze related, and I can tell because like when I'm hungover, like I've really bad headache. Maybe I'm admitting too much here. But sometimes I just don't feel good in the morning because I am an anxious person, and that's just the way I wake up sometimes. But I am enjoying this. I do really like it. I just bang the microphone and everything's okay. I used to do live broadcasts of a minor league soccer team in Arizona. And my gosh, was that stressful. And I let it get to me. I understand that. But doing a live broadcast as opposed to like filming something and being able to like, okay, it messed up. Let's do it again and edit it. It's so different. And I think there's like two kinds of people when it comes to production. And if I could never do something live again, like I would be really grateful.
You know what's so weird is like, so you're way more of like the theater kind of guy, like actor. You've done theater stuff in school and it was amazing and all that stuff. And I'm more of like just sports guy. Not really. I'm kind of into, you know, some acting stuff, but I'm not like, it's not my career, right? But I'm the complete opposite as you. Like, I would rather do something live than record. Like, I almost rather this be live. If that makes sense. Is that weird?
Yeah, I have to agree, because I'm a lot better off the cuff. If you put me on the spot, part of my defense mechanism, I guess, and there's two different types of people. There's the people that rather be in the safe zone, or some people that just rather fly off the cuff because that's the way they are. They just live in the moment for that part. When that moment's gone, it's okay. It is what it is. Me, I'm the same way. I rather fly off the cuff. When I feel like I have to try to make a mark or try to make something be something precise, then I start stumbling over myself and second guessing what I'm doing. When I'm off the cuff, it's like, hey, this is me. This is how it goes. And when I'm done, hey, it is what it is. Love it. Leave it. You know, take me as I am, because I can't stay long.
Yeah, I get that. I completely get that. Especially the having to make a mark. But that's why I think this podcast works, because it's almost live. But if I say something really bad, like I've cut out stuff like you guys don't even want to know. Like, I'll just say that right now. But
we're our own FCC.
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh, like I've stopped us from getting blackballed. You know, that's for sure. You know, I always say, like, we're not famous enough to get blackballed just yet. You know,
give us another season.
One more season, it'll all happen. But I respect that. You know, I would rather have the takes to get it right. But I think there's a kind of balance in the way we do this, because we are a little off the cuff. Like, when we started recording this, like, I didn't even know what the hell we were going to talk about. Like, I'll just tell you that right now. I thought I planned out the rest of the year for Nightcap Chat. And I had to come up with something else, because we have something else in store for the next episode that's going to be really fun, but we couldn't do it.
And to piggyback on what you said about us almost being live, is you're right, because like usually when we record, we just record and we stop and that's it. I don't think maybe once we've had to like go back and like redo a part, but besides that, it's always been like, or maybe we just chop out, okay, well, this doesn't really go, and we just cut out a little, like one little part, but that's it. So usually what you guys are getting is a genuine, like, would be the same thing if it was live. I just personally like the live. I guess this is why, like, I do Twitch outside of doing the podcast with you, is because I like the live aspect, you know, interactions with, like, you know, people, or I just like being able to watch things live. Like I know you're probably similar on, like, you watch Twitch all the time, right? I probably watch 8 hours of Twitch a day, at least. And I will never go back and watch a streamer's past broadcast, because to me, there's just something different when you're watching like that type stuff live. Like, you just feel like, oh, anything can happen at this moment. Like, I could watch something, they could say something crazy, where like if it was already a past thing, like, I just was like, oh, well, it probably didn't happen because it would have already like popped up on social media, or, you know, I would already know about it. You know what I mean? So I don't know what it is, but to me, just live is, for me, so much better. And I don't know if it's because I played sports, so like my whole thing was always like, hey, you're playing sports in front of people in college, and it's like it's all live. There's no practicing. There's no like, oh, I took a bad swing. Hold on, let me let's redo that one. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, here we are.
Let me ask this. I watch Twitch. Do you watch? Have you ever watched Twitch?
No.
Do you know what Twitch is?
I have no idea. I'm a social media idiot.
Okay, Twitch is, and
I don't have my face.
I'm gonna have to mark this episode as explicit, I think. Anyway, so I'm just gonna go ahead and say, if you're familiar with the concept of cam girls, it's the same thing, but people playing video games.
Okay.
You're watching people play video games.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's literally all it is. At first, I was really confused. I was like, why would I watch?
Oh, insane. Same. Why
Yeah.
would I sit there watching somebody else play a video game?
I honestly don't know how to explain it. we're in this new age of cable versus cable cutting with Roku's and then services like Sling and Netflix, Hulu, and whatever. You know, the coronavirus happened, the pandemic happened. I work from home anyway, but now my wife works from home. And, you know, it's nice to have on background noise. And usually we have Twitch on. And it's just somebody playing video games. And I don't know what it is, but you're right. There's something different about it being live as opposed to a past broadcast. Not that you know what's going to happen, because you don't know what happened, but it's different.
I think it comes a lot from the one and done society we live in now. It's like, oh, I've seen it once. Okay, well, it's all old hat. That was so yesterday. That was so 3 minutes ago. Everybody wants everything instantaneously. Press a button, click this, push this, and I get it right away. Instant gratification. Yeah, I think that's a big problem with a lot of things we got this day, because the satisfaction that we have is so short and so fleeting. You know, there's no longevity in it. We're losing a lot of that, I think, of the sustained happiness to where we're waiting for the next greatest, happiest thing to happen. And it's got to happen. Okay, I'm happy now. What else is going to make me happy? What's the next thing that makes me happy? You know, I mean, I get all the social media and all this, but the instantaneous gratification, I think it's doing more harm than good. These podcasts and stuff like that, it kind of puts you in the moment. It puts you there. It makes you feel like you're part of a group and part of something. Vice the pre-recorded, okay, let's clean this up and make this Disney and we can promote it and do this, that, and the other. It just seems so fake. And so some of them are pretty cool. And I started getting into it. I watch my kids watch it all the time, and I didn't get in at first. I'm an old guy, so I'm like, what's this crap, you know? But I started watching it. It was fun. It was like I can kind of understand why kids are getting into it, and the younger generation is getting into it, because it seems like they're a part of something that they normally wouldn't be a part of. And you got kids out there that are sitting in a room, ain't got no friends, ain't got nothing else. They pop this on and they look at it and they kind of feel like it's like they belong to something. So they get some solace and some gratification out of it. So you know, maybe there is some merit to all of this after a while.
Yeah, I agree. I also think. I think as far as the past broadcast thing goes, it's almost like, and I know like, oh, you know, compare sports to video games because, you know, esports is trying to like, you know, do the same thing, but I've never, and you guys both know, I'm a huge baseball fan, right? Baseball nerd, right? I have never, ever had any baseball game be played and then gone back and been like, oh, I missed the game. I'm going to go watch the game. I'm not going to go do that. I don't care if it's football, baseball. You're just not going to do that. Nobody does that. You're just going to be like, what happened in the game? Oh, we won. If you missed, you know what I mean? Like if you missed it, you missed it. And I almost feel like that's how like Twitch is. And I don't know if it's like people don't realize that that's kind of like what's going on in their head, because it's almost like, oh, I missed that. Well, what happened? Oh, okay. Well, you know what I mean? Like nothing really would happen.
It's back to that. You kind of had to be there.
Yeah, you kind of had to be there thing, right? Because you lose something out of like the genuine, like, because I watch Twitch at least 8 hours a day. Like almost every minute I'm working, I'm listening to Twitch in my ear.
I mean, you guys are in my studio right now. We're being safe, you know, as safe as we can be during this pandemic. And you see above my workstation here, like I have a little TV mounted on my wall, and if you follow us on social media, like you'd probably see it. And when I'm not recording something, because this TV hisses, and I know I'm getting off on a tangent here, there's a little hiss to it. But when I'm not recording, like what I have playing here when I'm working is Twitch. And I'm gonna go off and say like everything you said about this generation and podcasts and everything, like that was beautiful. That was awesome. And if any of you find any solace in listening to Nightcap Chat, and I've received messages from some of you guys about listening every week, and man, like I just want to thank you for that, because you know, like we do this for fun, And just the fact that you look forward to this every week, just getting those messages, like I cannot tell you how much I appreciate that. And yes, I'm getting off on a tangent, but just jumping off what he said, I just want to thank you for that. We're here for you guys as much as you are for us. So, and if there's anything else you want to hear us talk about, and I've said this on previous broadcasts, shoot us a message on social media. It's at Nightcap Chat at Nightcap Chat on Facebook and Twitter, and at Nightcap_chat on Instagram. Anything you want to hear us talk about, or if you just want to hear us answer a question, we are here for that.
Yeah, no, I've loved doing, the podcast. It's for the same reason, same reason you guys listen, same reason I watch Twitch, is to I want to watch something that has nothing to do with anything in the world besides let's hang out, play video games. It's what we enjoyed growing up as kids doing. We always had a blast doing it. You forgot about your day. You're just hanging out, playing video games, or you're hanging out playing baseball in the backyard, right? It's basically the same concept. You're hanging out, doing something to kind of get your mind off and just relax, not be stressful. That's what this podcast was about. It was about us hanging out, right? Mm-hmm. Having a good time, and maybe helping some other people listen and maybe learn some things, or be like, oh, wow, I never thought about that, about the MCU or whatever, and kind of share our thoughts and build a little community of hey, let's be a little family to grow and grow up with one another and kind of get out of that whole oh my gosh, the world's crazy and everything's going downhill, but oh, we got our podcast every Tuesday, you know what I mean? It's always something really positive to look forward to once a week at least.
And we're trying to get this out for you guys right now, because we come out on Tuesday nights, and it's, I don't know what time is it right now? It's almost
it's almost probably time. It might be Wednesday on the East Coast.
Yeah, we're trying to push this out. But we have a special guest with us here tonight. It's Dan, and that's what we're gonna call him. Nightcap Chat is about comic books, video games, movies, TV shows, and more. And what that and more is whatever we want. Because last week we were talking about kids getting Adderall forced upon them, which is just, it's crazy. It's crazy. And I hope if you did listen to last week's episode, you share it. And if you have not listened to last week's episode, I do hope you listen to it. I hope you share it. Because if you share any episode, I just want to get ahead of this. Because no matter what you think about the steroid era, we might be able to save a kid. And as much as I don't want to talk about stressful things, I think that's something everyone can get behind no matter what. So that was my long way of going off on a tangent and asking, okay, you've had to have played some form of video games.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I was the original video guy. We started off with Atari, and all that ColecoVision. If anybody remembers ColecoVision, it's it was very, very not anything that anybody would play today. They do it now, but it's more of as a retro thing.
Yeah.
Space Invaders and stuff like that.
Ken is pretty close. His favorite game is I forget what it's called. It's an old football game.
Oh.
It's old football. I don't even think they.
It's one of the ones with the dots on the screens where you push the buttons and you advance them a couple. They made a couple of handheld games like that. I
want to say it starts with a C, but I could be wrong. And I plan on playing it on some kind of live stream, because I think it would be fun. So in the celebration of pop culture, favorite game of all time. What do you think it is?
E.T. definitely.
E.T.
No, just kidding.
We've talked about E.T., so I can't believe you said that. We've had long conversations about that game.
I actually bought that game with very high expectations because I loved the movie. I was from that generation. I was, one of the first couple of kids to see the movie. I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. And the game sucked so bad. Yes. It was like to hear years later that they found hundreds of them buried in a landfill.
You know about it too!
Oh my gosh, yeah. I was like, yeah, well, that's about where they should be. And then I heard they're worth all this money because nobody can get it because it's the landmark worst video ever.
Oh my goodness.
And yes, I have to agree it is, and why they dug it up, I don't know, but I guess it's eclectic in its own right, for being the best of the worst.
So if you had to pick one, what is your favorite?
Oh man, from my generation or today's generation or
no,
total?
Don't worry about what anyone else thinks about it. Just what do you think deep within your heart?
Oh
no, don't worry about what anyone else thinks because I think mine is not acceptable by society standards. Like
actually,
it could be nostalgia based.
It would be, and it's odd. I mean, there's a lot of good ones out today. That I really really enjoyed. But if you ask the one, and it has to come, like you said, coming from my generation, we started off with dot matrix type games and if then games. Yeah. So when ColecoVision came out, and it was a stupid game, Donkey Kong Jr. games, all those games, those were always my favorite. For a very long time, and I think a lot of games that are designed now are kind of, I think Mario is kind of based off of that same type of thought process on how you go through the game and stuff like that. And then the other one I am ashamed to say was a game called Ladybug.
Ladybug? I don't think I've heard of that.
ColecoVision. Okay. It was one of the newer ones that came out when ColecoVision first came out with, the old cassettes that you had to blow in a couple of times and jam back in there to get them to work. But it was a silly little mindless game, and it was one of those things which, like he was explaining before, a lot like this podcast is. It didn't have anything to do with anything. It was just an escape, and you did it for a couple of hours, and when you were done, you know what? I didn't have to think about anything. And you were, you had some sense of gratification, which, after listening to this podcast a couple of times, it's refreshing. It's a breath of fresh air to be able to sit down and listen for an hour and go, hey, you know what? I don't feel like I was preached to.
Yeah.
I don't feel, and I think that's the whole point of these video games. That I'm trying to get a handle on some of the newer ones now. I mean, I try to play them with my kids, but basically it's just dad sitting there with their kids kicking the crap out of me, which is fun for them, but a little humbling for me.
Didn't you play Assassin's Creed?
It wasn't Assassin's Creed. What was that one game I was playing? It's when I had gotten laid up for a while. I had busted my neck. I broke my neck, and I was laid up for almost a year. And I started getting into what the heck was the name of that game?
Was it Skyrim or
Skyrim? That's what it was. It was Skyrim.
Wow, really?
Yeah. I really got deep, and that's when I started to kind of understand this generation's type of video gaming and how they can get immersed into it and immersed into the whole. How they talked about it like it really happened to them. I'm like, it is a video game, guys, get over it. But I'm like, I can see how you can get excited about it because I think nowadays with the restrictions and the fears and everything that these kids have, they're more closed in. So they're looking for the same escape that I had when I was a kid. But my escape was literally an escape. We went outside and climbed trees and rode bikes and did stuff like that. Now everybody seems to be so afraid of everything that their only escape is to sit there and pretend that literally they're in another place or they're this character that the graphics and the engineering and the programming that's in these games now is amazing. It blows my mind away to see how much time and effort went into making these things relatable to the players that are playing them. And it's kind of a substitute. I don't know if it's better or any worse, but I guess under the circumstances that we're in, especially this COVID shutdown, I think half of these kids would be in a loony bin if it wasn't for social media and some of these games that they have. I know my generation completely would have fell off the edge if this happened during my generation years ago, because that was it. You went outside and you didn't come back in until it was dinner time, and God help you if you did. So yeah, I mean, I think the video games now have progressed to a point where I'll have to begrudgingly say they do have some benefits to them for the generation and situation that we're in.
Gosh, I think that was awesome, especially what you said about this Ladybug game, which I'm not quite familiar with, but I really related to because there's games I play for the story, and like I play games as much as my free time allows me to. I do really enjoy them, but there is a difference between like getting into a game, enjoying the story, and also having a game where you can veg out, if you will. And that's what I kind of picked up from the Ladybug thing, and that's why I still play like Overwatch, which came out, years ago. And I know you've hated on it a little bit, but like it allows me to kind of unwind, and I hate to say not think. Like I don't want to say not think, but
it's pretty close to it because it is. I think you hit a point there.
Yeah.
Well, since you said that, getting your viewpoint on Overwatch, I know why we both don't agree on Overwatch anymore. Because when I played Overwatch, I played it when it first came out and was playing it for first couple years like nonstop. When I go to play Overwatch, and sometimes I'll play with you, every once in a while to come back to it. I'm like, all right, fine, I'll come back to it, even though if I've had my heart broken, by Overwatch. I play it. I'm not trying to do the veg out. Like if I'm playing Skyrim, it's a game that I'm more about the story, and I'm just gonna relax and go around. Maybe I'll decide to go hunt some deer. Maybe I'll go do a mission. When I'm playing Overwatch, I'm like, I need to win this game. Like that's it. Like I have to win the game. Like I'm my competitive mode comes out when I'm playing like Overwatch, Fortnite. There's no like I'm gonna just relax and just space out. Like that's not happening when I play Overwatch.
Well, let me ask you this: what's the difference between this and Fortnite then? Do you veg out for Fortnite?
What do you mean by veg out? What are you defining that as?
Like is that
mindless game playing?
Yeah, like are you relaxing and just kind of unwinding from the day?
I'm unwinding from the day, but I'm unwinding by being a try. So
is that weird? Like you see, like what I'm getting at there?
I see. I see it as a difference between playing solitaire or Texas Hold'em. You play solitaire just because you're trying to pass the time and you don't want to have to think anything else, but you want to be focused on something to distract yourself from all the other bullcrap in your life. When you're playing Texas Hold'em, it's a skill thing. You're looking to win something. You're looking to, and you have to use your mind and calculate. And just as there's different types of people, there's different types of games for different types of moods that you're in, and what you're looking to get out of them. If you're very competitive, Lance, then you're going to be more gravitated towards the things that are goal oriented or score oriented, like where you are, how fast you make it, or where you make it to. Me on the other side, my life is full of chaos, as much chaos as I can possibly ever want. So for me, I want something that maybe is way below my level of thinking, but I want it that way. I don't want to have to overthink anything. I don't want to have to stress myself out about, oh my gosh, I didn't get to that next level. Because I have that in life. Oh my God, how am I going to pay the mortgage? But I guess that comes with different thought processes and different emotions. There's times where, for example, the solitaire game's not going to do it for me. I don't feel like I just want to sit there and veg out. I want something that's going to excite me a little, get me more into it, pump my blood up. Ladybug is not going to do that for you. It's just not that type of game. When you get into the different games, the live action games where, you're playing multiplayers and it's across the board and somebody can actually kill you. And guess what? You got to go back to the beginning, that's a different type of release. And I guess it's all on how you deal with your stress. And I think that's a lot of what video games are. It's an escape and how you deal with your, how to get your stress release.
Yeah. And I think for me, it's like, I used to play baseball 6 days a week and work out 4 days a week. I have a torn labrum, torn UCL, torn meniscus.
No meniscus,
sorry. And, I need to get my competitiveness out or that mental drive out. And I think by playing a game like Fortnite, that kind of helps me get that, that competitiveness out, that gets that like release. so sometimes I need to play a game like that or a game like Overwatch, and then sometimes I need to go play a game like Skyrim, where if I want to just do whatever, I'll do whatever. Or want to go kill a cave troll, I'll go kill the cave troll.
I don't care who wins, but I have to beat Lance.
Or like bocce ball.
Or bocce.
I still can't get over that fucking game.
You are the luckiest son of a bitch I have ever met in my life. That's all I gotta say.
Dude, we played bocce ball yesterday.
And like he was throwing, he was like putting English on freaking bocce balls.
What?
He would hit a ball, like my ball would be like literally kissing the white ball. You know how you play the game, right? And he would throw a ball, somehow kicked my ball out of the way and was kissing the white ball. It's physically impossible.
And it happened multiple times. That's the craziest part. And and then there was all this other nonsense kept happening. Oh my god.
Oh yeah, it was like I said, when given the choice to be lucky or good, I'd much rather be lucky.
And then it was like game point, right? And they had another like they kept having amazing throws, and they make another like their team makes an amazing throw, and the ball's like kissing again. So I go to throw this ball, and it looked like it happened in slow motion because the ball is super far away. The ball lands, and I guess just because of how it landed weird, all this dust just came flying up. And like you couldn't see where the ball was, and we were all just sitting there and like crouched for like a good like 5 seconds waiting for the literal dust to settle to see what happened to my throw.
Because because every throw he threw, it was just something that was in the laws of physics you would think was physically impossible to happen. It was physically impossible to happen. So when he threw this last one, he was throwing it and we're like, listen, if you knock this out, that's it. I'm going inside. I'm done. I'm done because evidently the gods are against me or whatever it is. So he throws the ball like he was saying and it hits the ground and we're all like, swear that because it landed so close you think that it happened. But when the dust cleared, is exactly, thank God, the way it was because I would have been, that's it. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done.
It was literally comedic. It was like something out of like a Dragon Ball Z episode, when they fight and then there's just dust and you can't see anything and then you wait for it and then you're like, oh, someone's like knocked out. Like you were waiting to see, oh, they lost. It was hilarious.
It's another one of those you had to kind of been there. It was hysterical because the shots that were going on was you couldn't plan them. You couldn't say, oh yeah, that's what I meant to do. Same thing with the pong. The beer pong.
Oh gosh, that's what you guys did.
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
That's funny. But I think it's really interesting the way different people unwind with video games. There's quite a philosophy with what can I go to bed and do, or how your mood dictates, what you want to play next, Last night, for example, like I was getting really frustrated with Overwatch, which is that's my veg out game, right? But I was like, you know what? The world's ending. Like, I want to finish Horizon Zero Dawn. So, like, I'm going to play the story. And I started playing through the story and becoming the chieftain of this tribe or whatever the hell I was doing.
Right.
And it was fun. Like I'm really close to finishing the DLC of that game. Because, I mean, of all the recent games I played, it's one of my favorite games of all time, which is insane to say.
Well, let me ask you this, since you guys are like really big gamers.
Yeah.
So when you finish a game, like I said, most of the games that I played coming through my generation really didn't have a point or a story to it. It was just, you did it and you tried to get the highest score or whatever it was. After you finish a game, is it like reading a book? For me, when I read a book, I'm not one of those guys that want to go back and reread it. I might reread a book after, maybe 10 years, I'll go back and reread a book. Is it like that with the video games? Do you have any kind of gratification like, oh, I finished that, it's done, and or do you have some kind of nostalgic thing that kind of carries on that you like 5 years from now you're talking about, oh yeah, you remember that game? Well, I finished this. Is it like a benchmark, or is it just something you just kind of like, like blowing your nose? I blew my nose and I threw it in the trash can. It's done. We don't really talk about it. It was just something that happened.
Gosh, I love this question, and I'm curious to see what you say compared to what I'm about to say. So for me, I have a handful of games, and this is a great question, especially this week. The PS5 and the new Xbox, which I can't even think of its name, comes out this week, and we are at the end of a 10-year generation console for PS4 and Xbox One, right? So we've had the PS4 most of this cycle of this new console, if you will. There were several games I've had for multiple years that I didn't even open. And when COVID hit, I was really bored and I got through all of those games. And it was a lot of fun. So there's not one answer to your question for me personally, because Super Mario 64 is my favorite game of all time. And that came out in 1994 or 5.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a single game that I have replayed that many times. I mean, there was several summers there that I just get nostalgic and I just want to play through it. But there are plenty of other games where I played through it once, or I played for a couple days and I don't get through it. So for me personally, there's not one straight answer. It really depends on how good it is. Because there are games I played multiple times. Super Mario 64, Sonic Adventure, Sonic Adventure 2.
Those are all older games, though.
They are older, and I don't know what that means. I don't know what the...
Well, that's where I was leading this question to, is like all these older games. I could still pick up Asteroids. Not a great game, but it's another one of those mindless games. And for a couple of minutes, you have a blast with it. The games they have today are so story driven that once you finish the story and you've picked up all your stars or conquered all your, is that it?
I think sometimes, because to me, Super Mario 64 and Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2, because they're later than those 2D side scrollers, they had a bit of a story. But I think it played to my nostalgia because I was younger. But Horizon Zero Dawn is one I might replay that later, but I'm more looking forward to the sequel that's coming out in 2021.
My answer is 97% of the time, I'm not playing that game ever again. Now, the 3%, those are probably some of the greatest games I've ever played.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. Like you said, Super Mario 64, storyline of Mario is always the same garbage, right?
It's nothing to write home about. Like, Peach got kidnapped by Bowser and we have to go save her. The story is not fascinating.
Right.
But the gameplay, I mean, it's amazing. And it's still amazing to this day. I mean, I literally just bought that same game 2 months ago or a month ago when they just re-released it on the Nintendo Switch.
That was my third time buying that same game.
Yeah, and I've bought Skyrim 3 times. And that's a game you've played.
Mm-hmm.
I've played through it on the PlayStation VR, the Xbox 360. Sorry, Xbox 360, PS4, and now on PlayStation VR. And I've played through those games, and I guess the answer really is it's more about... Because the reason why you play through Skyrim again is because I can play through Skyrim and I'm going to have a completely different experience than you playing through Skyrim or you playing through Skyrim.
Yeah, I know. I noticed that too.
Because it's just there's choices you make and it changes some of the story, or you can go off and go do side missions for literally 100 hours and not do any of the storyline, you know? So there's just so much content.
That's the one thing I loved about Skyrim, that if you wanted, because it's the ones that follow a strict storyline, it just seems like it's fleeting. Like you said, there's certain games that you guys play over and over again, and they're the simplest games. And I wouldn't say they're completely mindless, and not like the solitaire, it's somewhere in between. But it seems like the more complex and the more, I guess, techie the game gets, like, oh, you can do this now and you can do that and you can bring your friends and stuff, it seems to lose some of the staying power for it, the allure to it. The difference between the flash in the pan, 90s band where there was 100 of them, or Pink Floyd, who's still selling albums.
Right.
It's one of those things that we keep coming back to because there was something to it that hit us in our souls. And it's weird for me to talk about that with video games because I can't see how that happens. But this generation is just so technology driven that I see the excitement in their eyes. These kids playing these games, that there's new games coming out, like when we did when a new BMX bike came out, you know. And it's a little strange to me because I was like, okay, well, you're sitting there staring at a TV. I don't get it. Like, yeah, but you don't understand, and we can do this, and you can do that, and you can do this. And at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, well, you won the game. What did you get? Well, nothing. I was like, well, then what did you win? Well, nothing. And it's like, oh, okay, where's the payoff? You wasted 3 weeks of your life. Nobody's seen you for a week. You're covered in zits. You weigh 8 pounds more than you did before you started the game. Are you any happier? No, I'm frustrated as hell, but I love the game.
But you're happy when you're playing it. No, but I will say, like you said with the Pink Floyd thing, and like the other the 50 boy bands that happened in the 90s that turned into nothing. That's kind of like comparing like Skyrim, I feel like, to like Call of Duty today. Skyrim's going to be one of the greatest games ever. Period.
Well, it already is. It's been re-released several times.
Right. Well, then you have Call of Duty, where it's like a new one comes out every year. You're going to play it. And Call of Duty is not a game that, I mean, sure, there is a story mode, and it's like an 8-hour campaign, and you get through it in a day or 2 days. But then you play with your friends for a couple hours. You're supposed to play for your friends a couple hours every day on multiplayer, and you kind of just do some mindless stuff with your friends. And it's just like, there's not like this great story, you know?
Right.
So I think that's kind of like where you're getting at with that stuff. Although I will say Modern Warfare 2 is one of the greatest Call of Duties and one of the greatest games of all time because of just the multiplayer was just so amazing. And so it's same thing with Halo 3.
Okay, Kanye.
Kanye?
Because I will say it's the greatest.
Oh, okay.
But there's a weird spectrum here because you get to the point where like you're not replaying because there's just too much. And then there gets to a point where there is so much where it becomes obsessive again. And I'm referring to games like World of Warcraft, where it's a massively massively multiplayer online game. So like
a couple more consonants in a vowel, that would have been a word.
It's literally a world, and you can run into people, and you pick your character. So
is the outcomes different every time? Class. Is that?
It's not even about outcomes. I mean, there is a story, but there's quests, and there's who you want to be in this world. So like, you're not just a race and a character and a class. There's also professions. So when I was a human warlock, for example, I took up tailoring, and I would go like fight these little monsters that would drop cloth so I could tailor things. And there was just something so zen about just sitting there in this video game. And like my character would literally sit down. I would sew like little bags. Like I would like over and over again. I would sit there. And that's all I was doing. I was sitting and making bags.
The feasibility of being relevant.
Yeah. I mean, like games like World of Warcraft are past that point where now there's a whole nother thing to think about here. You know, there's something casual but obsessive at the same time. Because like I haven't played it in several months. I picked it up back again relatively recently when they released the vanilla version, because there's been so many expansions. They released a version back when it was originally playable.
They just actually released a new expansion called Shadowlands.
I know. Stop it. Don't even talk about
I know.
that
You
right
know,
now.
it's like literally like once that game sucks you in, it's basically you either choose I'm going to play every other game on the planet, or I play World of Warcraft, and then like that's it. Like
it's like gambling,
basically. It's I refuse to play it because I know how much I love Skyrim, how much I love games that like there's basically no end to the game. Really, you can literally just keep playing it forever. I would get lost in it, and I will get too deep into it. I can't.
Here's the thing: people talk about like gambling problems. Like we have a friend who's very big into this game, and like when you have a drop, so like you defeat a boss, right? And he can drop certain items. And when you have a drop that's 0.01% and you're addicted to that and you're doing it over and over again for this 0.01% drop or so on, like, that's gambling.
Yeah, I never even looked at it that way. Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm not going to lie when you say that. That's literally what I love about video games, and that's why I love, like, RPG games. They're my favorite because that chance of getting that legendary item when I defeat this enemy or I open that, like, box or whatever it is in that video game, whether it's, Skyrim, and even, like, and I think that's part of the reason why I like Fortnite so much is because it has a mini little RPG part to it, because it's like, oh, am I going to get that legendary assault rifle? And I know I'm going to destroy everybody if I get it. Or am I going to get that legendary shotgun out of this box?
That's just great marketing right there.
It has that little bit of, like, because it's a gamble. I can pull out a gray pistol out of that.
It's for the endorphins.
Right.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah.
I love that about those games. And I just think it's fun, and I love grinding. And I think part of it, Pokemon as kids, you kind of have to grind to get your Pokemon, or you do it all the time. When you're trying to find a rare Pokemon in the wild, there's a 2% chance to find a Pikachu or whatever in this certain area in the grass. So you keep...
I shiny hunt, so I get that.
Yeah, so it's the same thing. So
I hope that's legal. I don't even know what that means. That just doesn't even sound
okay.
right.
So for those of you who don't understand what the hell I meant by shiny hunt, in Pokemon, there's a 1 in 4,000 chance that the Pokemon will be shiny, which is just an alternate color of the Pokemon.
Okay.
Not even necessarily a real difference, just literally an aesthetic thing.
Right.
And then you work and you can get a shiny charm, which cuts the odds in half to 1 in 2,000.
Sure, and that's exciting to you because nobody else has that. Right.
Not necessarily. It's just rare.
It's just rare,
because
right?
People hack the games too. So I mean, I don't even know what to tell you there, but
I don't even understand that realm. If you have enough time to sit there and hack a game to get a shiny something or other, dude, I think you've pretty much lost in life at that point.
I won't do that, but I'm hatching for a shiny Feebas right now, which is essentially a fish Pokemon. I am about 1,700 eggs deep on trying to get a shiny Feebas, and
1,700 attempts.
I've hatched 1,700 eggs,
and that requires, like, you have your Pokemon mate and finally gets you an egg, and then you have to do how many steps?
X amount. So for Feebas, it's probably around 200. Don't quote me on that, but it's roughly 200 steps per egg within the game. So I'm like 1,700 deep at I'm at full odds because I'm Masuda method and have the shiny charm. So it should be 1 in 400 something. I'm about 1,700 eggs deep, and I have not got a shiny Feebas yet.
Man.
Yeah, it's bad.
But think of it, and like you said, it's all the endorphin rush, and I can kind of understand that concept of
waiting.
Keep on going after it, and it keeps you feeding into
Every
the game.
time the egg hatches, I'm like, is it going to be shiny? Shiny Feebas. Is it going to be purple?
Just imagine the release when it happens.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, he's going to have to shut off the mic when that happens. I tell you that right now, guys.
Well, have you ever played Borderlands?
I'll be right back. I just got a shiny.
Briefly.
Well, Borderlands, same thing. You could open up a chest and get this crazy good gun, and all the guns, there's literally in the game, they always advertise there's millions of combinations. So I could finally get that gun that has a high amount of damage done with corrosive damage, but I got the one with electric damage. Well, I gotta get the one with corrosive damage because that's the one I want. You know what I mean? There's so many different aspects to it. It's like you just want to grind for those guns, and you can do it with your friends. I love that about games. That's literally my favorite part of video games.
So let me blow up another question. How do you think that all this helps? Or do you think it helps, or should it even help in the cultivating of your personality, of who you are, or what you do, or life itself? Or is it just a total escape that people are taking way too far and making it a part of their life as an escape rather than, are they gaining something from this? Are they go, well, okay, you lose and you try again, you lose and you try again. A lot of times I see these kids that are hooked up on these video games and they never want to come out of their house.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to help them with life. But me, when I look at the games, I'm like, oh, I can see. As a matter of fact, I use a lot of metaphors when I'm talking to younger guys about when they can't get through things in life. A stereotypical thing, they try something once and they fail. They feel like they're failures, so they're going to go back in their room and jump on their computer and not come out. And I was like, hey, it's just like trying to get to that next sport or that next level. And I try to relate it back to what they're so familiar with, that they deal with every day, that they excel at, that they come in here and they look at this and they're like, I lost. So what do? You quit the game? Do you quit the game, or do you push on? Do you find that kids today are taking the knowledge or the emotional learning that they're getting from these video games and portraying it to their own life? Or are they just using it for an escape and an excuse to detract from society?
I don't think it's an excuse to detract. This next generation, and I won't say I'm not a part of it, because I've definitely had a part of this technological revolution, when I was growing up. There is a little bit of a crutch when it comes to social situations, and I think that's up to parents and the previous generation to kind of nurture that. But I don't think there's any reason to vilify things like video games, because for all intents and purposes, like these kids aren't doing drugs on the streets. Like there's a lot worse things they could be doing,
unless it's Adderall.
Adderall is bad. As you heard in our last episode, like Adderall.
I hate to bring that up again, but that is a very poignant point.
They're unprescribed anyway.
Right.
Like if your teammates are forcing that on you, like maybe that's not
absolutely. It should be taken for recreational purposes. I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding.
But with anything in life, like there should be a balance. And there's really worse things you could be doing than video games, if you will. Sure,
that's a good point. I never really looked at it that way.
A lot of kids are look at this iPad, look at this phone, and they're being raised on this technology, and there are problems being caused, but there are also worse things that could be happening to especially these young adults.
Yeah, because I could say the alternatives for entertainment when I was a kid, none of them were really good or safe.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess retrospectively, looking at a kid vegging out on a video game was probably a lot better than what we had to do when we were bored.
I think I do still think there is a line, and I think it's not necessarily just like black and white. I think there is a little bit of probably a gray area. But I just think it depends on what you're doing outside of the video game. Like, are you literally only playing video games? And is it not like, unless you're, like Nick Merckx or Ninja or, some of these huge streamers that are making literally millions of dollars playing video games, obviously then it's probably okay, when you're making a career out of it. But
which is funny. I was completely against video games until I found out you can make a career out of it. Like, yeah, go ahead, kids. You can play some video games. Let's see where this goes.
But when you're sitting there and you're just doing it and you're not doing anything with it and you're just kind of playing video games and, like the stereotypical, like in your mom's basement and literally contributing nothing to society kind of a thing and not really making any money or you're just literally just trying to play video games, then obviously there's probably some type of like, there's probably an issue there. You might want to cut back on it and like go outside and go have a career or go do something. But at the same time, I think it has done leaps and bounds for people who have issues about going outside, right? You meet people online or you're able to, interact with some friends through video games where, there's plenty of kids out there that aren't good at sports. I mean, I've seen it firsthand. I was a former teacher. There's some not athletic kids out there, but, sure, they can have fun in playing video games. And I think video games is a great way to kind of learn how to be competitive. The only thing is, obviously, there's no one there to kind of teach you when you're being too competitive or you're in the wrong. Because there's plenty of kids that are take it way too seriously sometimes. I mean, you see like rage compilations, right? Those are huge things on YouTube of kids like freaking out. It's like it's just a video game, and I get it as an athlete. I've done some crazy things in the baseball field, like throwing things, cursing out umpires. I'm not saying you should do that, and you shouldn't. Like, it's bad. I just lost my temper. But I think there's just, you just have to figure it out. And I think there's plenty of lessons to be learned. I mean, when I was in college, my coach made it mandatory for us twice a week after baseball practice. We had to go home, hop on Call of Duty, and play Call of Duty together as a team bonding experience. So we had to go on, play video games. Hey, guys, we're going to take out this other team. And we had to work on communication and winning. And we had a fun time. It was competitive, but we also had some team bonding. And it was good. It was great. I loved it. Like, it was great playing with my coaches want to play Call of Duty with me. I mean, they were like literally 4 years older than me, but like it was a great time. And I think there is a fine line there. I think there is a lot to be learned. I just think it's just like anything else. Like, you could use anything, like most things, for good or evil, right? You know, you could use your phone to pull up who knows what, like some crazy, you know, black market, you know, stuff on your phone, right? Because the internet. But you could also pull up some type of foundation for cancer and donate there. You know what I mean? Like, you could just use it for good or evil. You know what I mean? I think that's kind of where video games are. It's like, you could use it for good, or you can take it to the point where it's like, oh, you might be doing that too much.
Wow. That just shows what a great question that was.
Oh, thank you.
I think. But before we wrap this up, because we are almost an hour, or depending on what we edit out, I mean, and where we started, because I honestly have no idea. I just want,
like I said, this is some good branding.
Yeah, this is great stuff. I wanna ask one more question of our special guest. It's one of our bigger topics, and of all of your favorites, I just want to know what your favorite movie is of all time, if you had to pick one.
Oh man, that's tough.
And if it's tough, you can pick two.
Favorite movie of all time.
You can pick more than one, but we just want to kind of round you out as a special guest here.
I would have to say Young Frankenstein.
Okay.
Comedy. It's a classic that'll go on forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
You can pick more than one.
Yeah, that's a tough one, because I've
especially when
I've been around a
the
little while,
comedies.
guys. So I've seen them all. I mean, I'm not from the Humphrey Bogart generation, but
this is also good.
Also good. Also, not to knock them. I don't know. That's a pretty tough question. I mean, I have a lot of old classics. A lot of the new ones there.
Because this is going to be on the internet forever.
Yeah, I know. That's a tough one. So, I don't want to be pigeonholed into.
We're gonna have a top 10 list next week.
He's like, remember that time you said, the Pokemon movie was your favorite?
Oh, come on, that's good stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, I watched it several times with my kids.
Yes, we did.
Let me see. I mean, Lord of the Rings was great. Because I read the book. It was one of these.
They're all one movie, right?
Yeah, and I saw all the Lord of the Rings. I mean, the very first animated one that came out. There was so many. Lord of the Rings was great. Any Marvel movie, just about any Marvel movie you can watch is awesome. I mean,
I know this is a stretch, but I'm just trying to reach for straws here. Because you said you watched the animated Lord of the Rings. Is there any chance? Do you remember there was a video game for MS-DOS for Lord of the Rings? It was an RPG game. It was crazy. See, like nobody knows and nobody talks about it. And it
was an RPG game by who?
For MS-DOS. Like, you had to do like CD colon slash CD.
Oh, it was like one of those if then type programmings, or
I mean, it was up down left right kind of stuff, and then you had to like type in some of the right things, and like that's between that and the animated film, like that's what got me into Lord of the Rings.
Oh, really?
And like you could play through the Fellowship, but you could recruit who you wanted.
No, I don't.
So you go through it and like you run into Radgast. like, I'm going to have a second wizard on my fellowship and forget what Tolkien did in the books.
They need to redo that.
You know,
they need to redo that.
Guys, like,
that sounds amazing.
If I can figure out how to stream it, like, I'm going to do it. Like,
somebody call Bill Gates. Somebody's got to redo that move.
Yes.
Somebody got to redo that game. That sounds amazing. I don't think do they have any other Hobbit games?
Yeah, there's a fair amount. You know, during the first Xbox, they did a The Hobbit game.
Yeah. I mean, a real one.
They also did the Fellowship of the Ring. They had nothing to do with each other, and they also had nothing to do with the movies. But, and I think we've talked about this on previous episodes of Nightcap Chat, when the Peter Jackson Two Towers and Return of the King came out, they did movie versions of the Two Towers and Return of the King, and those games are so underrated, and they're very casual, and you could kind of play through it real fast, but then you can have a friend over and like, okay, I'm gonna play through it again, and I'm gonna level up my Gandalf or my Legolas.
Lord of the Rings: The Third Age, though, which is a game that literally, like, it's a game where you just play with the story. Like, the story
is it one of their force along games? Like,
no, well, it is, but it's like the story of Lord of the Rings is going on, but you're just like an elf, a man, and a dwarf who are like doing things in the background, and you like happen to see like, oh look, there goes Gandalf. Oh, he's fighting the Balrog. Like, you see it happening, but you're doing
so
something
lame.
else. But the gameplay was amazing.
Really,
I played through that game multiple times. All right, I've only done that to a handful of games. You played that too for Xbox.
So I replayed it, and I will admit it wasn't as glamorous as I was hoping to be, but that was mostly because the multiplayer aspect, when you're running through this Middle Earth, if you will, like only one person can run through it, you know, so that person just kind of has to wait till.
Well, it's a
like
turn-based game.
Yeah,
it's a turn-based game, so that's the only thing cool is like.
So what's the vote on a redo on this game?
Oh, I would 100% want them to read. I would want it a little more complex, like a little more to it.
Updated.
As far as
I mean, when did these games come out? You're talking about in the early 2000s.
The third age.
The Third Age had to come out what 2000.
So that was amongst the
that was the
Peter
first roll of the
Jackson
RPG
films.
games and stuff like that when they first started pumping those out.
So it must have been after the Return of the King. So they did the Two Towers. They did Return of the King. I want to say
so pretty much nothing since then. Nothing to the standards of what they have now.
So as far as Tolkien games go, recently they did games called Shadow of Mordor?
Oh, that.
And the second one.
I would love to see a game kind of like Skyrim, but Lord of the Rings based.
You know, I played the first Shadow of Mordor, or whatever the hell it's called. As somebody who's read the books, like, I was just so the main concept was you were this man who kind of got connected to a wraith, like a half dead, you know,
right, the ring wraiths.
And then as you're kind of fighting through Mordor, if you got killed by one of the orcs leveled up within their own ranks. It was a cool concept.
Okay.
But it was hard for me to pick up again. And then when the second one came out, and like, okay, we're sitting here in the studio where we record Nightcap Chat, and I have my black painted wall here with my Nightcap Chat logo, and I have Lord of the Rings movie replicas and movie posters because I'm a big Tolkien fan.
Same here.
And when the second trailer for Shadow of Mordor came out, and the main character was reforging the One Ring, except the script was blue instead of red, I was kind of annoyed because it was like, how I can't see how this actually fits within the Tolkien mythology. I don't think somebody would reforge the One Ring, and I absolutely refuse to play it. I don't know if it's a good game or not. If it's a good game, great. That's fine. If you had fun, whatever. But I don't think that respects the source material enough for me to embrace that.
All right.
That's weird. He reforged the One Ring after everything we've been through. That's that's what you're doing. And I don't care what the explanation is. That's weird.
It's like another Friday the 13th movie. How many times can we kill this guy?
Right. Yeah, it was ridiculous. The gameplay was good, and the idea of the whole like, oh, I lost to that one specific orc, and that orc now is a captain.
And that's cool.
That's a cool concept. Like so there are repercussions. So when you go to replay it again, it is a little different because now that orc's the captain, you still have to kill him. Right? So you can make the game almost harder on yourself. You keep losing, and these orcs are getting more powerful, right? So that's kind of a cool concept, but they haven't made a Lord of the Rings game like Skyrim where it's like an open world. I can literally go, I'm going to go visit Elrond today, see what's going on over there, or I'm going to go see what Radagast is up to.
I think they're missing out. I think they're missing out on a big opportunity with that because that's not only is it classic. I mean, when I first introduced my kids to it, they were like, and you got to remember how old this book is and how old these movies are. They were watching it like it was something new. Like this was something that was written in the last 10 years by, some of these millennial guys. It is amazing. So I really think that if anybody's listening, jump on this because I think there's some coin in that.
I will take it back though. There was that Lord of the Rings Online, right? But it flopped, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I don't know if I wouldn't say flopped because the servers are still online. Like there's a following.
There's a niche following though.
Yeah, yes, it is niche. And I didn't get on it. And I guess I regret it. Because with all the games I do play and as much as I love Lord of the Rings, I mean like there's a Sauron helmet in the corner of this room, and I think they are missing out to an extent as far as the video games go because the next Lord of the Rings game in development is about Gollum. And like I don't want to play a game where I'm Gollum.
Yeah.
That's like the last character I want to be. Like pick any character in any of Tolkien's books.
He's the scummiest.
I don't want to
really
be Gollum.
is.
I don't care if it's a sneaky game or like I don't even like sneaky games, and maybe that's why I'm like I don't want to be Gollum.
No, I
want to be Gandalf. I want to be Aragorn. I'd rather be any of the other hobbits.
Right.
I don't want to be Gollum.
I love sneaky games, and not a chance I will even bother looking at this game. And I like as you said, I'd rather play a game as Merry and Pippin, and you have me run through Hobbiton and just like make a ruckus of everything. You know what I mean? Like, oh, whose house can I break into and set off fireworks or something stupid? You know what I mean? I'd rather play that than a game about Gollum.
Yeah, and I don't care about sneaking around. We keep going back to Horizon Zero Dawn. You can play that game as you want. I don't sneak around. I go fight the robots. Like I don't want to sneak past them. I'm going to fight them. And I don't want to be Gollum either. Of all the characters. But yes, I don't know how the rights to these video games work out. Obviously, New Line switched to Warner Brothers because New Line went out of business, and who knows what's going on with everything else. But whoever's listening out there, don't make a Gollum game. Let's go back to these MS-DOS days and let's make a real RPG game.
Definitely.
Let's play through Lord of the Rings and maybe like I can recruit who I want to. That's what would be fun. Because I only had the demo for the Two Towers, which is the sequel and the last game for that series. And in the demo, you kind of get up to finding Gandalf the White for the first time when you fight him, and you realize it's Gandalf the White, and that's really cool. I never got past that part, but I want to. And it's been, 20 years maybe?
More.
At least. That's fun.
More.
That's exciting.
The thing is you can't half-ass that.
No.
You can't come out with, Lord of the Ring. It was such an iconic. If anybody doubts me, go read the books. Don't get the movie. Go read the books. Actually, the ones with paper. If you guys remember what paper is, where you got to lick your thumb and turn the page. I'm telling you, it will give you a different experience. It will truly give you a different experience. And then go create a game because it's infinite. The possibilities. I remember today. I've been around. I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but I've been around for a while, and I still, as an adult, a full-grown adult with children myself, sometimes sit back and go, man, wouldn't it be cool to run around in that time and do that? You remember when he did this? It would be cool to be there and do that. I would have done this and I would have done that. And I'm spilling my drink all over myself. So yeah, I think that would be a good avenue instead of coming up with a another damn Pokemon game.
Yeah, and I love Pokemon.
Don't get me wrong. Same here.
So just jumping off of that, like even the appendices of Tolkien, there's so much rich history. You can literally do anything interesting before making a Gollum game.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
That seemed like a cop out to me.
Even if like you're sitting out there like, oh, Lord of the Rings, whatever, like they have made some games and a lot of them have been like not that great, like not huge. If you guys don't want to do a Lord of the Rings game, and they've shown like Shadow of Mordor was a successful game and it was a Lord of the Rings game, but it was relatable. If you want to do something similar, there's the Silmarillion. There is thousands of years of stuff that Tolkien has written that you guys could do that has amazing source material, like amazing things that you could read. And if you guys haven't read it, if you've just read Lord of the Rings and you haven't read the Silmarillion, go read the Silmarillion.
Oh, absolutely.
It's great. And like, who doesn't want to be fighting the king of the Balrogs? Like that just sounds awesome, you know. And that stuff like that happened in the Silmarillion. Like that just sounds like an amazing game. And how is that not going to be like a big open world or a fight that you can have with your friends, like 4 of you taking on Malcor or these other crazy sentient beings and all this stuff.
And if you enjoy any bit of this Tolkien talk, we're kind of gearing up to do a Lord of the Rings episode in December, so look out for that. But I think that's about all of the time we have for today. Dan, thank you so much for coming in and making this episode possible.
Oh, this has been great, man. I really appreciate it. I hope you have me back.
Yeah, absolutely. He's moving here really soon, and he will be back. So you guys hold him to that. We're Nightcap Chat. If you have any we mentioned this earlier, if you have any episode ideas or want to hear us answer any questions on air, we're at Nightcap Chat on Facebook and Twitter, and Nightcap_chat on Instagram. If you want us to combine all of our names to just Nightcap Chat, message Instagram and say, why are we being blocked from being just Nightcap Chat? Because I don't know, and I don't know who to message for that. But we cannot be Nightcap Chat because it's being censored, and I don't know why. So
maybe we're too PG.
I don't know. You guys tell us, complain. So let's get all the same names.
And I get my internet tomorrow. So you can catch me on Twitch soon at twitch.tv/Tales of Lance, and on Instagram and Twitter at Tales of Lance. And we can finally hang out.
But thank you all for listening. We love you. Be safe. And we will catch you all next week.